lovely bubbles too, and cheerful red poinsettias. It warms me knowing that the funds raised when you make a purchase go to something that enhances the quality of life in this building in some material way, like the new stoves we have, a fresh coat of paint, a good chair cleaning. We hope you will stay with us after the service for the bazaar and fellowship in the Hanneman Hall, which is right outside the doors to the left. Today, we welcome Bob Muir, one of our homilist storytellers. Reverend Rick will return to the pulpit next week. So please join me as we begin the service with our collective voices saying the affirmation. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for friends and members of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. We light our second chalice for our partner church and friends in Simonfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And our third chalice is for our children and youth in religious education and all around the world. The 4 candles on this wreath count down through the season of Advent, a time of waiting, of cultivating patience. This season asks us to hold faith that all that we are becoming is still awakening under the surface of our lives. Last Sunday, we lit the candle of hope. On this second Sunday of Advent, we light the candle of peace with the words of Pema Chodron, a Buddhist nun. If we want there to be peace in the world, we have to be brave enough to soften what is rigid in our hearts, to find the soft spot and stay with it. We have to have that kind of courage and take that kind of responsibility. That's the true practice of peace. May this time of waiting inspire our courage. May we find the soft spot in the pressures of this season and stay with it as we discern our way forward. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be at ease and discover the true practice of peace within us so that there might be peace in the world. Let us sing the flame into life. Rise up, O flame, thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Good morning. Can everybody young or young at heart please join me up front today? Good morning. Hi, guys. Thank you. Hi. Yeah, right up here. Good morning. Hi, yeah, right up here. Good job. Hello. Welcome. Okay, so with the holidays coming up, this is a big time in LRE. We're learning about all the different holidays, and the kids get to, pick which ones they like to learn about and go forward with that research in youth group. And so for today, I wrote a poem for you all. It's called UU Holiday Poem, and my son Joey wants to help me read it. In a world of unity, where hearts intertwine,
always side diverse and divine,
chalice aglow with a flame so bright, Unitarian joy, a guiding light. Winter solstice, whispers in the air, nature's quiet magic beyond compare. Christmas and Hanukkah dance hand in hand, celebrating love across the land. In this tapestry of traditions so vast, unity prevails, a bond that will last. So let's sing together a festive cheer, Unitarian holidays we hold dear. Thank you. Thank you. And are there any birthdays this month? Any December birthdays that are here for the kiddos? No? Anybody? Okay, we have this just in case. If anybody has a December birthday at home, we have a card for you. Okay? And then, so we have a rummage sale coming up. It's not a sale, it's a giveaway. It's totally free admission, free everything. And it's wonderful this time of year because we're about to have the holidays where we're getting a bunch of new stuff, and now's the time to get rid of the old. So if you can bring some stuff in before the 15th, you can leave it for me or anybody in the LRE program. You can leave it in my office or in the youth group room. That's the blue room down there. And then it's free admission on the 17th at 2 o'clock. And everybody gets to fill up a bag and take it home. So if you can, just bring stuff that will fit in a bag. And bring as much as you want. And then we have somebody coming to pick up the rest of it and donate it the day after. So, and if you need any help getting it here, just you can text me, call me, or email me, and I will come pick it up for you. Okay? All right. If you could stand up in the center and create the love arch, we'll be on our way. Thank you.
Reverend Sean Parker Dennison finds compassion and gratitude through this experience. I'm sitting here brokenhearted. I could try to convince you that it's about the state of the world with its tragedies, suffering, and seeming lack of compassion. But it's not. I'm brokenhearted because a relationship that had swept me off my feet is over. I'm sad because sometimes love isn't enough. There are patterns, habits, preferences, and just ordinary circumstances that get in the way. Relationships end. As a minister, I sometimes feel like I'm supposed to take my heartbreak and transform it immediately into hope with some instant alchemy. I think to myself, I have to find a way to bring this back around to how love never fails. I'm a minister. I'm embarrassed to be so weary with grief, so heavy with disappointment. I do believe love, with a capital L, never fails. Still, heartbreak hurts, and it takes time to heal. Even if you've been to seminary, preach regularly, and have a well-articulated theology rooted in love, you don't get a pass from the pain. And even though it's hard, that is a good thing. Sitting here brokenhearted reminds me how tender we all are. Heartbreak happens. Love never fails. Both these things are true. And when I make room for this seeming paradox, I feel a little better. I remember I'm not alone. I remember that I can choose to be kind and loving to people all around who may be heartbroken too. And I remember that I am held by a love that is bigger than any one relationship, a love that has never and will never let me go.
Good morning. My name is Kathy. It's my honor to be a Lifeline's lay minister. I'm here to go over the joys and concerns. The first is from Leslie and Bob Zygon, and it's a concern, two concerns. 6-month-old Alora faces more open heart surgery, and our friend Jeanette is doing chemo before her ovarian cancer surgery. The second concern is from Danielle Shearer. My heart hurts for all those who loved Ralph the cat. He will be missed. Please pray for those dealing with loss this holiday season. And Danielle especially wants us to pray and remember that her father passed away this time last year. And we will have one final candle for all those joys and concerns that are in our hearts and minds and remain unwritten and unspoken. Lifelines Lay Ministry, we are here for you when you need a supportive listener or helping hand. You can contact us at the email address on the screen, lifelineslayministry@uusalem.org. We also have a table that we have set up in the fellowship hall every Sunday if you need to come to talk to somebody. And finally, today is the second Sunday of the month, so it is Compassionate Connections. We will have that immediately following the service. The issue came up of what is that? Like a lot of people might be saying in the audience, what is Compassionate Connections? The best way I can explain it is if you're going through something, it could be anything that you're struggling with, you can come forward after the service and come up to the chairs over here up front, and we will be here to listen and support you. So if you need that today, just make sure to come forward. You'll see a group of us at the end of the service. Thank you.
In 1908, the editor of the Indian newspaper, Free Hindustan, wrote to the great Russian novelist and thinker, Count Leo Tolstoy, seeking his support for India's independence from British rule. Tolstoy replied in a long letter, a part of which follows. The letter was published in the newspaper and later read and approved by Mahatma Gandhi for further publication. Tolstoy begins the letter with some quotes from the Vedas. All that exists is one. People only call this one by different names. From First Letter of John, chapter 4, verse 16. God is love, and God bless you. And he who abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. And then from the Vedas by Vivekananda, God is one whole, we are the parts. Tolstoy ends the letter as follows, in his own words. Only one thing is needful, the knowledge of the simple and clear truth that finds place in every soul that is not stupefied by religious and scientific superstitions. This is the truth that for our life, one law is valid, the law of love, which brings the highest happiness to every individual as well as to all mankind. Free your minds from those overgrown, mountainous imbecilities which hinder your recognition of it. And at once the truth will emerge from amid the pseudo-religious nonsense that has been smothering it. It is the indubitable, eternal truth inherent in man, which is one and the same in all great religions of the world. It will in due time emerge and make its way to general recognition, and the nonsense that has obscured it will disappear of itself, and with it will go the evil from which humanity now suffers. Children, this is from last quote, Krishna. Children, look upwards with your beclouded eyes, and a world full of joy and love will disclose itself to you, a rational world made by my wisdom, the only real world. Then you will know what love has done with you, what love has bestowed upon you, what love demands from you.
Thank you, Barbara. That's an interesting story, but I'm not going to talk about it today. But did you know that Tolstoy was inspired by Thoreau, civil disobedience? Tolstoy influenced Gandhi. Gandhi influenced Martin Luther King Jr. So an American influences an American through two foreigners. Good morning, friends. Yes, we are a community of friends. We share values. We trust and support one another. We enjoy being together. We work together to support various activities and projects. I think, borrowing from the Quakers, we could call ourselves another society of friends. But America has never been a community of friends, as much as I love America. True, most of us probably share some basic values, such as freedom and civil rights, the belief in lawful democratic governance, and we support our country through taxes and public service, and from time to time, we defend it in war. But we do not have personal contact with the vast majority of our fellow Americans, and it is clear that many of us do not trust one another, and we are deeply divided about the kind of country we want. It's so bad that in some families, members cannot even talk to one another about what is happening because it leads to angry exchanges. We sometimes look at our political opponents as irrational, almost crazy, hopelessly lost in denial. Finding such disagreement too disagreeable, many withdraw. Better a silent peace. Better to keep our distance. The result is like a Cold War or a stalemate. But the stakes are too high. The risks to our country and to the world are too great. We need to find a better way. I began to question the paths we're on here at UUCS on a Sunday when the topic was freedom of conscience. It sounded to me as if this freedom were being threatened by others. This puzzled me because I believed my conscience already was free. My conscience, my sense of right and wrong, is private. So long as my conscience remains private, I didn't see how it could be limited by others. Thoughts and feelings become a problem to others, to the group, the party, the religious organization, or the nation, only when we express them or act on them. So wasn't the issue of freedom of conscience really one of freedom to speak and to act among others? Today, many of us do feel that it is difficult to speak freely in some settings. In some situations, speaking one's mind can result in ostracism or worse. Like you, I treasure my ability to think for myself, but though I valued my freedom of conscience, I felt it was not enough. Does freedom to think and feel necessarily lead to good choices? What if one's conscience is insufficient or misguided? Does freedom alone assure that we make good moral choices? It seems to me that conscience is significant in guiding our actions or our refusal to act. But our actions and refusal to act affect others in the world we share. So doesn't the exercise of my conscience require that I consider the effect that it has on others? How do I preserve and express my values in a world which has different ideas about what is good and bad? So as I see it, the exercise of my conscience is not entirely a private matter. It calls into a question our relationship to one another. We live in an interconnected world. When I was 12 years old, I was hospitalized for a week at a Navy hospital to diagnose a heart murmur. The hospital served active Navy personnel and veterans. I was probably the only boy there. While I waited between procedures, I looked around for things to do and came across a small library where I found William Shirer's Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, the history of Nazi Germany. Remember, I was only 12. I was shocked and depressed by what I read and saw in the photos. Millions of people methodically killed, millions of others dying from war and starvation. For the first time, I became aware of deep systemic evil. It may have been the beginning of my awareness of evil altogether. I knew what bad was, but evil was something altogether more. The shock was all the greater because this evil occurred in a country known for its scholarship and discoveries, its education and culture. Many of the Nazi leaders were well educated, and many educators were Nazis. In a 1989 study, the scholars Cherish and Armiger estimate that the percentage of university faculty in the Nazi Party was between 21 and 25%. 21 to 25% of the faculty were Nazis. Yet their education did not prevent them from supporting a political party that engaged in mass murder. The conscience of these Nazis was free, but it was insufficient and misguided. Much later, as a law clerk, I listened to a murderer on death row at the Oregon State Penitentiary describe what he had done to his victim without the slightest trace of feeling. His conscience was also free, but did not prevent murder or produce remorse. I came to see that freedom to act on one's conscience is a critically important part of being free and having dignity as a person, but it is no guarantee that one's choices are good. One must have the right values. We UUs recognize that. Our UU fifth principle speaks of the right of conscience, but in the context of the fourth principle, which refers to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The first and second principles speak of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Isn't the very meaning of conscience a sensitivity to certain kinds of values? What are those values, and how do we acquire them? As I see it, there are deep divisions in our society about what our common values are or should be. Many of us believe these divisions are a menace to our democratic republic, to our individual freedoms, to social justice, to peace, and to the survival of life on our planet. Our nation is so divided that we cannot even talk about our differences. Our government is so divided that at times it can barely function. How do we move back from this precipice and find a way to live together? How can we reach agreement about what is good while preserving our freedom to think for ourselves? That is the question I wish to share with you this morning. Broad agreement on what was good was not always a problem. During the Middle Ages of Western civilization, there was little disagreement about what was good and what wasn't. There was one church, the Roman Catholic, that provided the answers. The church believed independence of thought led to heresy, which led to eternal damnation. It enforced agreement about its spiritual teachings through a monopoly on education and teaching. It wrote and preached in Latin, a dead language that most people could not read or understand. It suppressed non-orthodox thought through ostracism, excommunication, and other punishments. There was also a single social and economic system, feudalism, in which powerful landowning aristocrats kept most others, the peasants, poor, economically dependent, ignorant, and weak in body and spirit. In this feudal society, freedom to think and speak independently was viewed as a threat to obedience and salvation, and freedom to act was a threat to peace and stability. It was suppressed by the threat and exercise of violence. This world began to unravel with the plagues of the 14th century, which caused the population of Europe to shrink by approximately 1/3. Depopulation led to an increase in the value of labor, to a surplus in available land, and to increasing trade, all of which meant prosperity for the survivors. We are those survivors. Towns and cities grew, and with them emerged a growing merchant class that was economically independent of the feudal system. Economic independence permitted and rewarded individual initiative and risk-taking, ultimately leading to capitalist economics and individualist society. During this period, the Gutenberg press was invented. The mechanical press with movable type made possible mass production of cheap printing. Cheap, available text led to a rapid increase in literacy, which in turn led to greater independence of thought. Let me add, it also led to the use of the Vulgate language, the spoken language of the people, instead of Latin, but that took a while. Within decades, many revolted against the Roman Catholic Church in what we now call the Protestant Reformation. Among its core ideas was that individuals could have a direct connection to God by reading the Bible and prayer. Priests were not needed. Each believer could discern the truth through an inner light, call it conscience. Thus, authority about the good moved from the church and the feudal lords to individuals. Individuals could decide for themselves what is good. People began to believe that individuals should have liberty to decide what is true in religion and good for government. The power of the church and the aristocracies weakened, and representative democracies emerged. We, the people, the Constitution begins, would form a more perfect union, freely electing our representatives and separating church from state. That is our world. We have individual freedoms and the right to elect our representatives to a Republican form of government. But our freedoms are not leading us to agreement about what kind of society is good. Why is this happening? Why don't my two brothers agree with my sister and me about what is good for society? We had the same parents, identical public education, similar childhoods. Why are the members of our two major political parties ever more hostile to one another? How can we preserve our right to think for ourselves and maintain a respectful and constructive relationship with others who often think differently? Clearly, authoritarianism, like in the Middle Ages or Nazi Germany, is not the answer. But I am also increasingly convinced that hyper-individualism also is not the answer. In his 1995 work, The Temptation of Innocence, the French thinker Pascal Bruckner argues that excessive individualism leads to tribalism. It releases each individual from social obligation. He writes as follows: being guided only by the lantern of his own understanding, the individual loses all assurance of a place, an order, a definition. He may have gained freedom, but he has lost security. Other thinkers, such as Erich Fromm, have observed that the insecurity of freedom can cause anxiety that some may seek to escape through dogmatism and authoritarianism. Fascism arose in periods of great social insecurity, as you probably know. A country is a place to live. A society is the way to live with one another. It's about relationship. It seems to me that the current impasse in our society fundamentally is not about ideas, but about relationship, or a lack of relationship. In my early teens, I felt I was one of the few truly individual people I knew in high school. Many of my friends seemed more interested in conformity and belonging to their group. At the time, what mattered to me, most to me, was my freedom to think and act independently. But marriage, work, and various life experiences afterwards led me to appreciate some facts that I had taken for granted and overlooked. Without others, I could have never learned to think at all. There would be no language, no education, no books, no time to read and reflect. Without others, mother, father, a society that cared for its members, I wouldn't exist. My thoughts, if any, would be about bare survival. Marriage and work also drove home the fact that other people will never fully be like me, have the same values, interests, or thoughts. To live with others effectively and peacefully, I have to take them as they are. I have to take you as you are. I hope you take me as well. We must make our relationships work despite irreconcilable differences. You may be thinking, isn't that obvious? Well, it wasn't for me, not at first. At the beginning, I was puzzled and sometimes frustrated that others did not think and feel as I did. I tried to persuade them to see things my way. Of course, that seldom had the intended effect. So today I ask, can we live and work with political opponents, accepting that we may have irreconcilable differences? When I was in the Army awaiting my medical discharge, a couple of corporals came to the floor of my barracks with their bags. I was a young liberal and wanted these two black soldiers to know that I accepted them. So I greeted them, introduced myself, shook their hands, and asked what brought them there to my induction barracks. They told me they were awaiting their next orders. Oh, okay, I said. Later that evening, I again greeted them in a friendly way, or so I thought, saying something like, hey, how's it going? This time, only one replied, briefly and after a pause. I could feel some tension in the air, so I asked, did I offend you? Did I offend you? After a delay, the one who had spoken to me replied, white boy, you've got an attitude. That upset me. What did he mean? It took some time before I arrived at an answer. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but this is the answer I came up with. My attitude was seeing him and treating him as a type, as a black man, and not as a person. My liberal attitude blinded me to my racism. Can we see others whom we do not know fundamentally as persons and not as types? I have a family member who for years frustrated my every attempt to change him. In some important ways, he was not taking care of himself, and members of my family felt they had to step in and take care of him so he would not suffer more. I too was suffering. I was quite miserable and wanted no further contact with him. But that wasn't possible. Eventually, I saw the conflict between what he wanted for himself and what I wanted probably would not disappear. Feeling defeated, I was left to accept him as he was. To my surprise, accepting him as he was brought me peace and led to a much happier relationship with him. Can we come to accept as they are those with whom we disagree? Can we come to accept as they are those with whom we disagree? While I was a lawyer at the Oregon Department of Justice, I received training in the art of negotiation. One key book we used was Getting to Yes, Negotiating Without Giving In. That sounds pretty tough-minded, doesn't it? By Fisher, Urey, and Patton. I highly recommend it. It isn't just for lawyers, and by the way, I'm not one anymore myself. It is based on the concept of interest-based negotiation. Interest-based negotiation. The basic idea is that negotiation is more likely to lead to success when we recognize the difference between the needs that motivate us and the strategies we use to meet those needs. Distinguishing between our needs and the strategies we think will meet those needs. Conflicts about our respective strategies are not necessarily conflicts about our needs. If we can identify the fundamental needs at stake, we may be able to identify a strategy that can meet our needs and theirs. That's a win-win. Later, I defended several state employees in a defamation lawsuit. The employee who brought the suit sought a large amount of money based on his claim that my clients had injured his reputation by making allegedly false statements about him. In questioning him during his deposition, I learned that what he really needed was to have his reputation restored and to feel that he was respected. On a hunch, I asked him if the others apologized, would he be satisfied? He said he would. It took some doing, but I persuaded my clients to apologize, and the suit was dropped. My clients resisted because they wanted to feel justified in what they had said about him. That was the barrier. No money was paid. The suit was over. What are the needs that lie behind the political opponents we have? After retirement, I joined, with Barbara, a group being trained in nonviolent communication, an idea, a program, and a movement advanced by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. You may have heard of it. It provides a communication tool in reaching an empathic understanding of the needs of others. The approach is to distinguish between evaluative statements and need statements. Evaluative statements can often obscure or even block us from seeing the underlying needs of others. When needs are unmet, evaluative statements come to the fore. You're not treating me right. That's not the way to do it. What's the need? People dig in and make judgments, often judgments about others with whom they disagree. Careful and respectful questioning of what others say and what we ourselves say can lead us to identify our needs and not remain at the level of judging the person solely based on their evaluative statements. This country isn't being run the right way. Strategy. What are the needs of those with whom we disagree? I've spoken to you before about Irshad Manji's book, Don't Label Me, which I still recommend. Her ideas are very much in the same spirit of interest-based negotiation and nonviolent communication. We cannot form a productive relationship with others, let alone learn to understand them by labeling them bad, selfish, crazy. We cannot learn about them by demeaning them or arguing about everything they say with which we disagree. We can learn by listening, and we can encourage others to share their thoughts by treating them with respect and withholding our judgments. Irshad Manji says something which I believe is quite profound. She says, you can argue about someone's opinions, but you can't argue about their experiences. Obviously, their experiences are theirs, not necessarily ours. Well, aren't our opinions also based on our experiences? Can we begin the conversation with others by asking them to share their stories rather than their conclusions or their opinions? What do you believe? How did you arrive at these views? What did you see and what experiences did you have that led to these views? How did your life lessons make you feel? What stuck with you? For years, my sister and I would listen to one of our brothers turn our criticisms of Trump into criticisms of the Democrats and criticisms about the state of society that needed to be addressed. Although we shared our views with him, we did not get angry and seldom argued, and usually listened respectfully. It was clear he was worried about the effects, in his mind, that various policies were having on the world he saw around him. He was sincere, he was caring. Our disagreements were mostly about the causes of and solutions of social ills and about priorities and strategies for addressing them. My sister and I felt dismay, but we stayed in our relationship with him because we love him. During a recent visit, he stated, without prompting for us, that Trump was unacceptable. Under no circumstances would he vote for him again. Perhaps our respectful expression of our views and respectful listening to his encouraged him to re-examine his views. I'm not so naive as to believe that this approach will always lead to agreement, but listening respectfully and with genuine curiosity can lead to reciprocated respect and civility. And in that peaceful space, we may find ways of meeting the other person's needs as well as our own. May it be so. With her body language, my wife just reminded me, now we meditate. Would you like to meditate? I invite you to think about your own life journey and the encounters you've had with those you've had strong disagreements with. And think about the suggestions I made about being curious and listening and withholding judgments.
We create a vibrant UUCS through pledges, Sunday donations, individual and group projects, and connections with one another. Right now, it's Sunday donations. We also support the Salem community with non-perishable food and checks to the Marion Polk Food Share in the dedicated Red Wagon. Each month, we share your Sunday monetary donations with an organization that exemplifies our principles. For December, we are supporting Emerge, Interfaith Movement for Immigrant Justice. This organization is made of diverse faith communities and individuals who work for immigrant justice across Oregon and the Northwest. They affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, as well as justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And before we move on, I just want you to notice that if you have an order of service, on the reverse side with our principles and purposes is this new decoration, a QR code. We haven't quite perfected this, but we got it on there. If you would like to make a donation with your phone, if it has a QR reader, that's the one. It'll take you right to UUCS, and let me know if it doesn't, but I tried it. And you can donate that way. We know that sometimes you don't have cash, you don't have who uses checks? I still do. So we're trying options, okay? Whatever the size, however you do it, your gift is gratefully received. And in addition to the QR code and other physical ways, you can do it online if you're at home in our listening audience. Okay? Thank you. Next Sunday, living up to the promise of my bumper sticker and hat, Reverend Rick Davis. Do you remember his bumper sticker? By the way, it is Beethoven's birthday then, and Reverend Rick's favorite composer and spiritual friend probably will be interwoven into this address. No doubt. Let's see. Next Sunday, there is a board forum at the third Sunday of each month. Yes? Board members. And they will share some useful information to you. The meeting topic will be announced on the day of, I guess. Yeah. But there will be an update on the ministerial search. Not our minister, we know where he is, but for when he retires at the end of the spring. I want to also announce, as Christmas is quickly approaching, we do have a morning service. Christmas is on Sunday, and there is a service at 10:30, just in case you thought there wasn't. But it's a little bit different. It should be a lot of fun. It's well, come in your ugly Christmas sweater. But we'll be meeting in the Hanneman Hall, Fellowship Hall, for carols and brunch. So come and bring children. They are welcome too. And then later in the evening, when you are really panicking about all the presents that you forgot to get, just come here. We have a 7 o'clock Christmas Eve service, which will be candlelight and more carols and some wonderful stories about the Christmas. And as part of the service, the evening service, there is a call for photographs, family photos, because Christmas is about family, isn't it? We've welcomed a new member of the family into the world, the Christmas story goes, and we would love for you to share your favorite pictures of family. So send them to a production team at uusalem.org and try to put in parent-child photo so they know what they're about. What else? And then if you don't already, you want news of this community because there's a lot going on, please sign up for the monthly newsletter, and you can do that by contacting the office at those contact details, phone and email. And there's also a Friday email blast that will update you on a weekly basis what is happening. Okay. I think it's time now to extinguish the candles. But before we do that, we will light the social justice lantern. Light the social justice lantern. As a reminder to find ways to uplift yourself and others in the week to come, starting with just a simple act of kindness. Who knows where it may lead you? And now we will extinguish the chalices. May you carry the light in your heart and in your deeds.
And now, would you all please rise in body or spirit as you are able as we sing our closing hymn, number 159, This Is My Song.
Country where my heart
Each of you is a sacred being, special in your unique way. Let us reflect on how the things that we value most often require more than me. They need we. With this in mind, you're invited to take your neighbor's hand and say together the closing words.